Ted DiBiase.
Is this the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase?
Yes.
How are you, buddy?
Good. Is this call in?
Yes, it is. You got Mike and Jay from the Detroit cast.
Hey, Ted.
Hey guys, what's up?
Oh, not much. I gotta tell you, man. Anytime I wake up, I check my Twitter, and if I see a wrestler's name trending, my heart drops a little bit, and that's how it was this morning when I saw Ric Flair trending. I assume Rick's a buddy of yours.
Yeah, I've known Rick a long time.
Yeah. Did you see the news today?
No.
He's been hospitalized, and family and friends or his management is asking for prayers from everybody.
What's the problem?
You know, I don't know. They just said, I think the quote was he's dealing with some tough medical issues, and he was put in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Ric Flair is in the hospital. Tough medical issues. Nobody knows for sure.
yeah, that's all
People
there's.
are asking for prayer. Wow.
Yeah, doesn't sound good, does it?
No.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I didn't mean to start this thing off on a bummer note like that, but I figured you were friends with him. So, anyway, Ted, you'll be at Ridley's Comedy Castle coming up this Sunday, August 20th, 7:30. 18 and over, comedycastle.com for tickets, or call 248-542-9900. I'm assuming this is your first time at the Comedy Castle.
Yes, it is.
Dude, you're going to love it. Place is great.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, this is, it's a fairly new thing to me. It's funny how things happen. It was suggested to me by a friend, because Mick Foley, he's done this, and Jake Roberts is doing it.
Sure.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan's doing it. Even JR, and I said, well, I know there were some humorous things about my characters in $1 Million Man, yeah. And many things to be hated. But, I said, I'm not really a comic. And they said, well, you really don't have to be. He says, and that question was posed to me, how many funny stories could you tell about your career, which was 19 active years and 25 overall? And I said, I could write a book.
Yeah.
Funny stories. And so that's the thing with this that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be telling stories about my life and about my career, things that happened in the ring, things that happened out of the ring.
Right on.
And for the wrestling fan, I mean, it's not going to be your typical, comedy crowd, I would say, because we're appealing to a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And
they're a passionate group.
They love to see behind the curtains. Not only am I going to tell stories, but I'm going to give them the opportunity to ask me questions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Q&A. Little Q&A. Is there autographs, pictures, etc.?
Absolutely. There'll be an opportunity for all of that.
Right on. Well, as you mentioned, 25 years in pro wrestling, WWE Hall of Famer. A lot of people say that you may be the biggest villain of all time in the history of wrestling. Did you I'm assuming you like that role?
Well, I've been told that many times, and that's very flattering. And it's like, well, it's even like when fans come up to a lot of times, they'll go, "No, Mr. DiBiase, please don't be offended, but I hated your guts."
Yeah.
And I just laugh. I go, "Look, thank you." I said, if you actually had liked me, I would be a little worried about you.
Yeah. Do you think the bit, Ted, ever went too far as the villain when you were doing some of that stuff?
Well, no, not really, because if you have the understanding that it was all staged, and one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time is the little kid in the basketball, the one thing we did.
Yeah.
I get asked about that. Oh my gosh, every day.
Yeah.
It's like, did you really do that to that kid? And I said, no. I said, he was picked out of the crowd. It was the stunt was rehearsed. I said, but when we did it live, I had to be the $1 Million Man. I had to be hardcore with him, and he was a little kid, so it scared him.
Yeah,
my voice is deep and everything, and when you don't get the job done, you don't get the money.
Yeah.
It just scared the hell out of him, and he cried and ran to his mother, which I mean, he couldn't have done it any better.
Yeah, if you had,
that's basically, I think that's what made people go, "Oh my gosh, what a jerk!" He really scared this kid. Well, the truth is, they got the money.
Oh, they did. Okay,
everybody
right.
got the money.
Well, Ted,
so
we should tell people that don't know what the bit. You pulled a kid, little black boy, out of the crowd, and you were like, "If you can dribble this basketball 15 times, I'll give you $500 cash." And the kid's dribbling, he gets to 14, and you kick the ball out of his hands, and the kid just looks so bummed, and you're like, well, this is a tough lesson to learn in life, kid.
Right.
If you don't succeed, you don't get the money. And then you just send this little black boy walking off into the crowd. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And brilliant, yeah.
But it definitely had its effects. And because even that night when I got back in the back, and everybody was high-fiving and everything, and oh my gosh, that was so good. And I said, I'm glad you're all happy. Now, can you find an armored vehicle to get me out of the building?
Yeah.
Fast forward, I get asked so many times. So I started telling people, I said, look, that guy's a full-grown man now. I said, he's probably going to walk up to me in an airport somewhere, tap me on the shoulder, and I'm going to turn around. He'll be about 6'6" now, and go, hey, remember me? Of course, he doesn't have a reason to be mad because they got the money. But it happened. It happened.
Yeah.
I flew to Omaha. This is a couple of years ago, and I was renting a car. And I don't know, it was one of the rentals where, you pay for whatever size car you want, and then you go pick the one you want. So I'm looking for a car, and I get a tap on the shoulder, turn around, I'm looking at this guy's chest, and I look up, and he said, Mr. DiBiase, he said, I'm the manager here. He says, can I help you find a car? And I said, sure, find something that'll fit both of us. And he said, I'd be happy to. Then he just says, by the way, he said, you know that thing you did with the kid in the basketball? And he just had that look on his face, and I went, no way. And he said, it's great to see you again. It gets better, guys.
No way.
I said, so what you're obviously doing well for yourself, so tell me about it. He says, man, you're going to love this. He said, I went to college on a basketball scholarship.
That's great.
So I said, well, gosh, yeah. I said, well, you're welcome. I inspired you, right? And he started laughing. Anyway, I got his number and then lost it. If I could find him, I know the WWE would do a piece on him if they could find him.
That'd be a great story.
Hey, do you think think the $1 Million Man character would work today? Obviously you couldn't have Virgil the manservant, but
I don't know. I
think the culture is just different now.
The culture is different. Wrestling is different. I am so grateful to the WWE and Vince McMahon in particular. Mm-hmm. The $1 Million Man was his idea. That the character,
really,
the whole thing was Vince's personal. Matter of fact, I was told in the meeting when Vince was out of the room, Pat Patterson said this, and Pat was great. Pat was one of the greatest guys for the psychology of our business. He said, Ted, he says, here's all you need to know. If Vince were going to be a character in his own show, this is who he'd be. This is his idea, and he is going to push it hard. And he's picked you. And I said, that's all I need to hear.
Wow.
And so, and if you think about it, after I left the company and Vince started involving himself in the show more,
he was
the character.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was that guy.
Was that hard for you, Ted? I know you were a real wrestler, a technical wrestler, not much of a shit talker early on in your career, but you had to adjust, it sounds like, to play this role. Yeah.
And again, I came up in the old school and wrestled in the South quite a bit under Bill Watts. And, Bill Watts was another guy who was great in terms of his psychology of wrestling. And so, yeah, when I started seeing all the cartoonish stuff they were doing, I thought they were killing the business. But in reality, it was a stroke of genius. Vince McMahon took wrestling, which was pretty much a blue-collar crowd form of entertainment, and he made it mainstream. He made it family. He
entertainment.
Added the colorful costumes, the entrance music, the over-the-top characters. I tell everybody, I became JR of wrestling, when I say JR, the movie.
JR Ewing.
Yeah, JR Ewing. And I instantly whiplash, with them.
There it is.
Well, if I could have had the handlebar mustache to curl,
yeah.
But all I really changed was that. The interviews changed, the over-the-top interviews. But then when I got in the ring and took off the funny suit, I wrestled the same way I always did, and I've always, and I tell guys this today. I said, when you go to a movie, it's not real, but if the movie is good and they tell a good story and the actors are really good, they draw you into the story and they play on all of your emotions. And I said that wrestling's the same thing. So the more realistically you can present your match, the better. Because I used to hear that back in the day. when fans would go, well, those first couple of matches, they weren't real, but those guys in the main event were trying to kill each other. And I was like, not really.
So do you resent when people say, "Oh man, the sport's just fake"? What do people care about this thing?
I really resent that.
Yeah.
Because it just, to me, all it does is show me their ignorance. Because reality is the athletic ability that we have to have and the stamina we have to do what we do is every bit as much as any professional athlete. And we've had guys come into wrestling from the NFL and they didn't make it. So in terms of physicality, and obviously you've got your characters that are like, even Yokozuna. Here's like 500-pound guy, but I said, okay, he's a 500-pound guy. He's not your typical athlete, but how many 500-pound guys could move as well as he did?
Yeah, not many.
Not many.
And a real neck injury put you out.
Well, that wasn't so much any one single injury. It was
wear and
tear.
It
was years. It was wear and tear. Yeah, that's what the doctor told me. I just, one day I took a bump and I felt this, like electricity running down both of my arms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what was that? And then, every other third or fourth bump it would happen. And so I thought I would go to a doctor, and he says, you herniated 2 discs in your neck. And I said, I played high school and college football, never had neck injuries, and never been dropped on my head. So what's the deal? And he said, what's the basic bump you take? He said, from my feet to my back. How many times a night? Oh my gosh. 20. How many nights a week? 7. How many years? 19. And he said it's degenerative. He says where those 2 cervical discs are, right where your spine meets your cervical, where makes you the discs in your neck, and right at the top of your shoulders, which is where you land.
Yeah.
Night after night after night after night. So that's what that was.
Well, in the end, did you like being a manager, or did you always prefer the wrestling?
I loved being a wrestler. I was okay being a manager. It was part. I was still part of the show and in the deal. But I always preferred being in the ring.
I had a question, Ted, about those. The long monologues you would do, like you and Mean Gene Okerlund are sitting there, and you just kind of take the mic from him and just start going off into the camera about whoever's coming up, about what you're going to do to him. I've always wondered, are those ad-libbed? Are those rehearsed? Like, can you do multiple takes to get it right? How does that work?
Well, back in the day, back then, I never had anything rehearsed. Nothing. I knew the story. I knew where we were going. I knew, what the match was that was coming up. And so there were bullet points I had in my head. And so, it was like I'd get in front of the camera, literally, and I'd watch the guy count down 3, 2, 1. And when the little red light on the top of the camera went on, I went on.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was all that's the real art of what we do. Now, I can't say that's true today. I think a lot of the stuff they do today is
produced.
Yeah.
Is produced, and even at times when I've gone back and they've given me something. And I said, okay, I'm going to look this over and I'm going to get the feel of it. I said, but you guys need to know one thing. Don't sit there and make sure. Don't sit there thinking, oh, is he going to get this thing just the way we want? I said, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be the $1 Million Man. And they said, okay, we got it. We know.
Hey, we are big here on finishing moves at the Detroit Cast. Describe the $1 Million Dream and how that came about.
Well, it's the $1 Million Dreams. It's a finishing move, and really, it's the same thing. It's a modified sleeper hold, and it's what Sergeant Slaughter called the Cobra Clutch. It's the same thing, with a different name.
Yeah.
So that's all it is.
Yeah. How much?
But there is a way. It's like, because I've been told that before. Way back in college, some guy smarted off to me about wrestling. So put me in the sleeper, put me to sleep. I said, really? I said, okay, and so I did.
Yeah.
And
you can put them out.
Oh yeah, the police do it all the time.
Hey, how much communication is there during a match between the wrestlers and also the referee? Like I
all the time.
Yeah.
We're talking to each other all the time. Sometimes I'll be looking at the referee and it looks like I'm talking to him, but I'm talking to my opponent. Or I'm telling the referee, if he's like, in a position where I can't get close enough for him to hear me, I'll call the referee, and it may be looking like I'm screaming at the referee or complaining about something, but I'm giving him something to tell the other guy.
And what is the ref's role in that scenario? Like, what is he saying? Is he directing you guys like, okay, guys, we got 2 minutes, finish this up? Or,
well, I mean, that's his role is to be the referee. And obviously, the way I always told my referees, I said, if you can catch me.
Yeah.
But basically I'm telling them, I said, if you don't see me do it, then don't you dare call it. In other words, don't be what we call a babyface referee who doesn't want any heat.
Yeah.
And I said, it's like, because a lot of times the fans get mad at the referees.
You're actually wanting the ref to react to your moves? Really?
Yeah, well, I'm wanting the referee. I said, again, it's part of me going, make it real. I said, so if I'm hiding something from you, I'm going to really hide it. And unless you can physically see it, you can't call it.
Yeah.
And so,
but you're the $1 million man. You just pay him off.
But then the referee would be, that's the only thing. And on TV matches, especially the referees, he's got a thing in his ear, and they give him time cues, and he'll just tell you, okay, guys, you got 5 minutes gone and 10 to go, or whatever the time limit you got.
Yeah.
And then he'll give us about a 2-minute cue when it's time to go home.
And then how much pre-planning? I mean, do you meet with your opponent backstage like, hey man, I'm going to do this move, or don't do this move tonight. I've got a really bad right shoulder injury, so don't do that.
Well, yeah, you talk about all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what don't
you plan all week long leading up?
I can't say that for today.
Right.
What they do today. I mean, I know guys that plan their whole matches, and they said that's ridiculous. That's not wrestling. Only thing I knew for certain when I got in the ring is exactly how it would end.
Really? I thought the whole thing was choreographed.
No.
Yeah. Really?
No, there are guys. Now you think you can memorize a 60-minute wrestling match?
No, I don't. But
exactly.
Yeah, that's the question though, because it's just so
violent. The real art form of wrestling, and it's a dying art form, is improv.
Yeah.
When you wrestle like we did back in the day, we wrestled a circuit. We wrestled every day. We wrestled in front of a different crowd, and every crowd you wrestle in front of is not going to respond the same way.
Yeah.
And so you learn if something's not working, you better learn to think on your feet and shift gears and do something that will. And you develop an ear for the crowd, when it's time to do something. And, the more organic that can be in terms of what you do. You see, and that's the same. I mean, I have the same problem with motion pictures. I love to go to the movies, but I mean, tell me a good story. I see so many movies today, and 2 weeks later, I couldn't tell you what that movie was.
We're
about.
with you, Ted.
Totally
We've
with
had
you.
this discussion.
And it's the same thing in wrestling.
CGI.
It's like there's to me, of course, I'm old school. I mean, hey, the company's doing great. I want them to continue to do great. Mm-hmm. But it's like, tell me a good story and let me get entrenched in this thing and instead of just all this flying around the ring.
Yeah. And along the lines of storytelling, what do you think about the overt introduction of the hot chick into the plots? I mean, I think mainly of Miss Elizabeth and Randy Macho Man Savage.
Ooh,
I know women in wrestling goes back many decades, but it seems like at that point it was like, ooh, the hot piece of ass, so to speak. And going forward, that's been very, very present. What's your thought on that?
Well, my mother was a lady wrestler, but she was a wrestler, back in the day. I mean, my mom and that's how they met. But, but
I didn't mean to call your mom a hot piece of ass.
Yeah.
Well, no.
She was a model,
I'm not saying she wasn't.
She was a model, though. She probably was a hot piece of ass.
Yeah, she was very attractive. But the, in the era of what they called their attitude era, where they became divas,
mm-hmm.
I was very outspoken against that. It's kind of like, when they first started, it was family entertainment. You had your kids watching it, and it got to where your kids couldn't watch it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, Steve Austin, I managed Steve. Steve's a friend of mine. I said, but and it's funny because we were at a Comic-Con or something together, and they did a Q&A, and somebody said to Steve, said, Ted, do you realize that Ted was very outspoken about your character, that the fact that and basically what I said was, I don't want my son to have a hero who cusses like a sailor, flips everybody the bird, and guzzles beer. That's not going to be somebody my kid looks up to. And so,
says the guy who stole $500 from a kid.
Yeah. So Steve, looked at the guy. He looked over at me and smiled, and he says, my mother was of the same opinion.
Yeah.
But back to what you just said about the guy that took $500 from the kid. Well, they hated me. That was my point. The point was
the heel.
They made a hero. They made a baby face out of a guy that was doing all that other crap.
Yeah, right.
And that doesn't work with me.
Hey, you mentioned a little bit ago about crowds reacting differently wherever you are. I assume you mean like other countries, but are the crowds reacting different whether you're in the Midwest or Southwest?
No. Crowds act differently in different towns.
Really?
In different cities. Oh yeah. You can go. It's not country to country. It's city to city. I mean,
who are the best to wrestle in front of? Who are the most rabid?
Well, I tell you, the easiest crowds to wrestle in front of are crowds that don't get wrestling that often. In other words, if a show only comes to town, once a year, oh my gosh, you can go out there and, wiggle your ears and they'll get off on it.
How was Detroit?
Detroit was always a good town.
Yeah.
Great town. Detroit's always been a great wrestling town. World record there for a while, 93,000 people.
Hey, how different, though, is Japan? You spent several years in Japan over there. How different is that wrestling fan and audience?
They're different in that, and they've changed somewhat. When I first went to Japan, the wrestling, any crowd, I mean, it was like part of their culture. They would ooh and they would ah and they would clap, but nobody would. You didn't have, nobody was screaming and throwing stuff at you and cussing you and all that other stuff. But it was just, it was
more of a cordial audience.
Yeah,
very, very different. Yeah.
Who were your favorite guys, Ted, to wrestle over the years? Did you have favorites or guys that you were like, oh, I don't want to wrestle that guy, or I love wrestling that guy?
I loved working with Jake. Jake was very easy. Hogan was very easy. And Hogan's a much better wrestler than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
Just watch the match he had with the Ultimate Warrior when he made the Warrior champion. I mean, that match was great because of Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan was directing traffic and telling the Warrior what to do.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's another story. But I know I loved working with him. Obviously, another reason I loved working with him is I made a lot of money working with him.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
But guys in my past, Bret Hart, I loved working with Bret. I never had an opportunity. Randy Savage, I had great matches. The first time Randy Savage and I ever touched, we had never wrestled at all until WrestleMania 4.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that was you and Andre v. Hogan and Savage, right?
Yeah.
Nice. How was Andre to work with?
Andre was great.
Yeah.
Andre was great. Yeah.
I hear he's great if he likes you, but if he doesn't, he's not so great.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And he was pretty good judge of character, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he didn't like you, you were not a likable person most of the time.
Hey, you mentioned making a lot of money wrestling Hogan, obviously. Are you comfortable letting on how much you made at the Pinnacle?
No, I don't talk about that.
All right. I'd ask.
I'm the $1 million man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's that laugh. Where did that evil laugh come from? I bet you get asked every day to do that laugh.
I do. I said, well, it's like a 19-year wrestling career. What am I remembered for?
Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
That cackle. Listen to that cackle.
Actually, that laugh is an extension. It's an exaggeration of the way I really laugh. And so I did an interview.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I did an interview and I happened to end the interview by laughing that way. And Vince happened to be walking by and he heard it. And he stuck his head in the door and he went, that is the $1 million man. And I want to hear that laugh
every time.
Every time.
Wow. So yeah. He had a vision that just kind of saw the bigger picture with things.
Oh, yeah.
That laugh is awesome.
Vince McMahon is one of the most incredible marketers I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Well, you've touched on your family. You know, your mom was a wrestler, little thing, but she was a wrestler. I think your dad unfortunately passed away in the ring.
Right.
And your kids wrestle professionally. Is it a good family business? Would you recommend that as a family business now?
Well, I put it this way. I would recommend it more now than I would when I was there. But and here's the thing: I didn't want my boys to wrestle either, and my boys all tried it, but not one of them was a wrestler today.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my boys to wrestle for the same reason my dad didn't want me to. And it's not the wrestling; it's the lifestyle that goes along with it. It's being gone constantly on the road, away from your family, and all the dangers that go along with that. Whether you're a wrestler or a pilot or a truck driver or a traveling salesman, anytime you're away from your home and your family that much, it's you're looking for trouble.
Well,
then when you're a celebrity on top of it, you don't have to look for the trouble; it'll come find you.
Right. Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, what we've learned now with, football and has opened us up to the CTE and the brain injuries and what they mean. I wonder if you guys worry about that kind of thing or, as we learn more about it.
The guys that should worry about it are guys that just did a lot of that crazy stuff. I mean, and I never did a lot of that crazy stuff.
Cheers to the head.
I took bumps, I took, it's like, but have I ever taken chair shots? Yeah. But when I took a chair shot, it was like my hand was up there. My hand or my arm was taking the blunt of that blow, not the top of my head. And usually I would take a chair shot across the back. But there are guys who, I guess, the whole macho thing, hit me. Okay. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, gosh, the whole thing with Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
If anybody that knew Chris was absolutely mortified and shocked beyond belief when they heard about that, because if you knew him, it wasn't in his character at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not a violent, explosive person at all.
Yeah.
And it just is, and somebody told me that when they examined him, that his brain was like putty.
Yeah, it was loaded. It lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, he had CTE, and it answers a lot of those questions. The thought of killing your kid,
and of course,
your wife.
And again, what did Chris choose to do for a finish? A diving headbutt off the top rope.
Yeah. Yep.
So even as often as that, you can do that night after night after night, and obviously you're not really diving into the person, and you're not always going to, a lot of times, and part of that is you're going to dive, and when it's not time to finish, the guy's going to move and you're going to hit your head in the mat. But, as many times as it doesn't happen, there's going to be the time that it does happen where you do hit the mat. I think I should be a little bit wary of it, of course.
Hey, Ted, you're currently a Christian minister. Was there a moment or event in your life that pushed you into the ministry?
Well, the ministry, me being in the ministry, happened over a period of time. But the thing that happened that, I was raised as a very strong Christian, and that carried me through my father's death and my mother's subsequent. She fell into depression and alcoholism, and so. But my faith in God and the impact that my father had on my character in terms of being a leader, not a follower, chasing your dream, working hard, all that. But when I got the things I was looking for, when I became famous and I got the scholarship to go play college football and everything, I became cool. And for 20 years, my ego was in overdrive. And, then when the WWF took off, we became like rock stars, and we were acting like rock stars, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And by the grace of God, there was never any addiction to any drug or alcohol. I did my share. Big problem with me was women, and no problem. No problem at home. Love my wife, love my family. It was an ego trip, totally an ego trip. And then when you get caught in that, and you realize in the fraction of a second that you have put at risk the most valuable things in your life to stroke your ego, it's ugly. And that's what happened to me. And I fully expected to lose all of it, and that's what I deserved. But that's not what happened. Not only do I believe God has forgiven me, but my wife, she goes, I'm not sure I'm strong enough to do this. She said, but I serve a God of restoration, not divorce. I'm going to try. She goes, I think you mean it. I want to believe that you really are sorry. I'm just not sure I'm strong enough to do this. And so, and it took a couple of years, but as my wife began to see the difference in my character, as she saw my priorities in life shift, because up until then it was pretty much, my job was first,
Sure.
and it was me, then it became God, my family, and my job became number 3.
Good for you, Ted.
I imagine this will all be talked about at length in the documentary that they're doing about you, The Price of Fame. Ted DiBiase documentary. How cool is that, man? That's going to be in theaters for one day only, November 7th. You go to fathomevents.com for tickets and information. That's fathomevents.com. So how did that all come to be?
Well, it's another long story where, a guy came to interview me to do a shoot interview, but he was doing it for a friend. And he said, I didn't really want to do it. He said, when I found out it was you, because I was a fan of yours, he said, and I agreed to do it. And so, a shoot interview, you're going to start asking me questions about my real life. And when you start asking me about my real life, I can't talk about my real life without telling you about what Jesus Christ has done in it. And so as I start telling the story, then again, the guy's name is Pete. Pete's the guy who directed this and put this whole thing together. And he said, Ted, what you didn't know about me was that my father's a minister. And he says, when I interviewed you, I was extremely backslidden. It's the word he used.
Yeah.
And he said, your story just got all over me. It turned my life around. He says, and I'd like to take a shot at telling your story. And I said, okay, let's do it. Anyway, it's all in there, but it's, what I hope people come away from it with is this, money and power and fame and prestige are not what you think they are. They are not the things that are most important in life. The intangible things, the love and devotion of a family, strength of character, strength of integrity.
We all hear those lessons, and we all hear that money, fame, prestige doesn't do it, but human nature is such that we'd all love to try that. For
I know.
a couple years.
Yeah.
See if it works for us personally.
If you don't have it, it seems like that would just fix everything.
Yeah.
Oh, if I could just get that. And you hear time and time again, it's just not it.
Yeah.
It's not where it's
at.
at.
If you look at all the people that have hit the lotto, and they say, I can't say a huge percentage. I mean, like over 90% of the people that get rich overnight end up worse off than they were before.
Yeah, wishing that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, last question from me, Ted. We had a hot dog eating contest in conjunction with our show not too long ago, and with that, a wrestling style belt was awarded. It was then thereafter immediately purchased by a bystander who didn't take part in the contest, and he actually cited you and the $1 Million Championship belt as a thwarty for doing that. What do you think? Should we recognize that belt as his?
Well, everybody's got a price.
Yeah, so I've heard.
Hey, Ted, you've been awesome, man. This has been a real pleasure to talk to you. It's Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. You'll be at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. It's one of the best comedy venues in the country. Any comic will tell you that. It's going to be Sunday night, August 20th, 7:30, doors at 6:30. ComedyCastle.com for tickets, or call 248-542-9900. I hope you have a great time out there, Ted. You're a great storyteller. I think people will have a lot of fun with it.
Hey, and I'm looking forward to coming back to Detroit. And again, the fans in Detroit, it just goes without saying, forever have been just great. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I can promise you that. And I'm looking forward to it very much.
So are we, Ted.
And
Thanks
remember, before I go, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Awesome, Ted. Thank you so much, buddy.
Man. Thanks.
We'll see you
All
Sunday.
right, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Appreciate the time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.